Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel and welcome to Prehistoric Kingdom, which after many years of development and many years of me following its development is finally out on early access. And I am very excited to get stuck into it and start building. First off, yes, I am alive. It has been a quite hectic 2 weeks for me. As you may have seen on the community post, my computer did unfortunately die on me. I had an issue with my wall power socket that blew a fuse, and my power supply to the computer got fried. And then I sent it off to be repaired, and then turns out my hard drive was messed up too. It's a real shame because I did end up losing quite a bit of video footage that I was making for another series, and I lost a few videos I'd filmed with my partner August too for More Planet Zoo videos. But thankfully all my other stuff was backed up, so that's all safe. And it shouldn't affect any of the ongoing series on my channel too much, so that's all good. But the really annoying thing was that this all happened right around the time of my graduation as well. I just graduated university with my master's degree in science communication, which I'm really quite proud of. If you want to see some pictures from my graduation, by the way, check out my my Twitter. It was a really lovely day, but my parents came up to visit, and it was already such a busy time, and then my computer died on me, and it's just been a really hectic couple of weeks. So hence why I haven't been putting out any content, of course. And unfortunately as well, it released, Prehistoric Kingdom released right around the same time as well, so that's why I've been a little bit late to the party. But there's so many great videos out already by other creators on Prehistoric Kingdom. But just before we go any further, first thoughts, incredible. The game is really fun. I'm loving the building mechanics. Of course, it's early access, so bugs and stuff are to be expected. Not everything's fully polished. But from what I'm playing so far, I'm really enjoying it. The gameplay feels alright, like it's smooth. The tutorial feels alright. Couple things I'm not super big fan of. I'm not a fan of the power system in this game. It is not really as clunky as Planet Zoo's can be, but it's not super smooth either, and it doesn't really interact well with the terrain. So that's something I hope gets tweaked down the line. But otherwise, there's only been a couple mild complaints really, and they're not even that much of a complaint, because of course early access, lots of things will change as time goes on. But for what's in the game right now, I'm really enjoying it. It took me a while to get used to some of the building mechanics and stuff. One reason I kind of didn't really play much with the beta, because I did a series on the alpha of Prehistoric Kingdom, but not the beta, is really the one issue I had was the camera movement really stifled my ability to build. And you couldn't rebind keys back in the beta. Now you can, and I managed to rebind it to a way where I'm quite happy with how the camera works. So that has helped tremendously in my ability to enjoy the game. So now I'm actually fully immersed in it, and I'm fully capable of building like I usually do. So I'm much happier with the game at the moment, and I'm really having a good time with it. And I hope all of you've had a chance to have a look at it, maybe get it yourself or watch other people play it and see whether you like it. I think it's a fantastic game. I really would suggest, if you're interested in things like Planet Zoo and Jurassic World Evolution, this is a game that kind of blends those two concepts together in a really great way, and in a way that I think is quite rare in simulation games, because we haven't had a game that treats dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures like the beautiful, majestic animals that they were. Jurassic World Evolution does it does make the animals feel really lifelike, and Jurassic World Evolution 2 especially, I think, did a great job of making them feel a lot more like animals. But this game, I think, takes it a step further, and instead of building like a park like you did in Jurassic World Evolution, here you have to build something more akin to a sanctuary or a zoo, where you really have to take into consideration animal enrichment, shelter, all that sort of stuff, which I really appreciate. So I've been having a great time with it, and I would highly recommend it if you're interested in this sort of thing. Also, the creature designs, the dinosaurs and the prehistoric animals in here are beautiful. And I say beautiful, I mean it. They're really quite accurate to what we think these animals would have looked like in real life, while at the same time just looking visually incredibly appealing. Like, they've got some really fantastic artists working on this in this game, and you can absolutely tell when you look at the animals. Today I'll be showcasing the Protoceratops in its own habitat, and you can just tell that so much love has been poured into the design for this animal. It looks so good, and I'm just really impressed. But yeah, that's just me talking about the game as a whole. But on screen, what you'll be seeing is actually me just starting up an entrance area. This is going to be our first park series in Prehistoric Kingdom. I'm not sure how it'll last or where it'll go. This is just kind of me kind of winging it and seeing where we end up. It's going to be very, quite a modern park build. I'm going to kind of imagine this as not necessarily a zoo, so to speak, but more of like, actually, it kind of is a zoo. I don't really fully understand what I'm aiming this to be. I think of it kind of as a research facility that's kind of been open to the public in a way. Like, this is where de-extinction happens. We have all these genetic technologies, but at the same time, you know, while looking after these animals and researching them, they need the profit, so they open it up to the public to some extent. But, you know, it's always going to be focused more on the science and more on like the welfare of the animals first, and then the guests, I guess. So there won't be like, so the idea is there won't be super like heavy theming or a lot of guest facing stuff that will be really fancy or anything like that. But the animal habitats I'm going to aim to make really quite nice and quite large, and, you know, hopefully blend the two together pretty well. I don't know if I'll succeed in that. I feel like I've already done a lot of guest stuff, as you can see on screen here with this gift shop. But yeah, it's kind of like, I guess, if you visit like a nature preserve and they do have like some animals that are kind of like more, I don't even know how to put this. Like, you'd go and there'd be some animals in like enclosures, so to speak, but the enclosures are less kind of like artificial and more natural. I really have no idea. I'm just aiming to try and make a park that I enjoy, basically, and whether or not that ends up fitting with this idea that I'm putting out right now, who knows, we'll see. But yeah, I guess a big part of what I'm doing here is just getting to grips with the building system, and I found it so much more like intuitive than it was the last time I played the game back in alpha. I almost entirely skipped the beta, really, to be honest. I did play with it a little bit, but I did skip it for the most part, because I thought it's just, you know, I wasn't having a great time with the camera thing again. And also, I just really wanted to wait for a much more complete version of the game to really see that big difference, you know, from when we first play it to when we play it when it's like fully out. And the best thing I think I can say about it right now is that I just really, really enjoy it. And I have that same feeling I do with Planet Zoo or any of these other games I play on the channel, because I don't really like want to step away from it. Like, when I start building, I kind of want to keep going. And that's the best thing I can say for it. It's just really, really fun and just such a good experience. So yeah, highly recommend it. And it's just a great thing to play coming back from like a few weeks of not actually playing any games at all, because, you know, my computer, because it's such a fresh experience as well. And yeah, just really, really enjoying it. Here you can see I'm just finishing up this plaza area. I'm still trying to stick with the really modern theming. One thing I think the game definitely needs some work on is the guests. We have guests coming in later, but they have this interesting thing which I've not seen any other game do, which could be really good if they kind of work on it a bit more, and that's the guests have this kind of like pathfinding where they don't stick to the actual placeable paths, and they kind of walk on any surface that they can walk on. And that could be really cool in theory. Right now it's just a bit janky, and the guests just walk on any surface, and I mean anything. They just walk on top of my like planters and stuff like that, and on top of like buildings and stuff. They don't do it often, but when they do, I'm just like, oh, how'd you get up there? You know. And again, it's nothing like major. It's not game breaking by any means. It's just something maybe to keep in mind for the future, and hopefully something they tackle. They've got a really great roadmap as well, which I'll link in the description. I'll put the link in the description for it. It just shows when the major updates are going to be. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, monthly updates are going to be like a small update, and then quarterly update we get like more, like 3 animals at a time or something like that, plus a new map and stuff. But don't quote me on that. I'll put it down below. It's really nice that they're really open with the roadmap as well. I always appreciate that from a game developer. In fact, some of the best community stuff from game developers that I really like is when they are just incredibly open about their state of development, what works, what doesn't work. And the best I've ever seen has to be the community management for the game Satisfactory, which is a game I really like and I might play on the channel someday. Though the game Satisfactory, I do have to warn you, is very antithetical to everything I do on this channel. It's just about completely wrecking an environment and building a factory in this lush forest. It's kind of like ethically horrific, but it's just such a fun game. But yeah, it's their community management for that game is fantastic, because like everything is out in the open. Like they really like chill with like modding, and they even like talk about really cool mods and stuff in their weekly spotlights. They talk about like, what's going to change in the future, where you should and shouldn't, like build your factory, for example, because of the future updates, stuff like that. That's really cool. Of course, this can't be the case for all studios, but I do appreciate when there's openness in game community management, and Prehistoric Kingdom is very much on the right track with that, with the Trello that they've got their roadmap on. So yeah, really appreciate that. Here we're starting our first habitat. I didn't actually want to get too big and too like over the top right off the bat. I wanted this one to be quite a small one, still very much fitting the vibe of the park, quite naturalistic and featuring a dinosaur I wanted to feature, but not too intense and definitely not too big. So we're not going to put in a sauropod or anything right off the bat. I want a relatively small dinosaur, something I could fit in this habitat really neatly and also feel like a good starting animal, and Protoceratops was the obvious option. The only other one I really would have chosen is the Psittacosaurus, but I couldn't resist the Protoceratops. It looks great. Psittacosaurus will probably come not long after this. It's also really beautiful. Both dinosaurs look fantastic. Protoceratops as well, and I do want to talk a little bit more about the animals as we go through this part, because of course I talk a lot about the animals in Planet Zoo, but I tend to forget to talk about the dinosaurs from Jurassic World. So this series, I think, is a perfect opportunity to talk about the animals that we're going to feature. And Protoceratops is such a cool dinosaur. It's, of course, an early ceratopsid. The frill dinosaurs, the ones like Triceratops, you usually think of them with the big frills, the horns. Protoceratops was an early version of that. So it has that big frill, but it doesn't have any horns. It does have that really, classic big beak as well. And it's found across Mongolia. And the thing with them is that there have been so many really well-preserved fossils of these guys found. And I remember hearing this in a documentary at some point with Nigel Marven, who's in this game. It's incredible hearing him, by the way. But I remember hearing this in one of Nigel's documentaries, that Protoceratops their fossils were so common that paleontologists nicknamed them the sheep of the Cretaceous, because they probably lived in these huge herds with big nesting sites. And they were like, they're probably like little goat-like creatures, really. I think goats are probably a decent way to think of them. I don't fully know, but, it seems like that's the way to imagine their kind of way of living, I guess. I don't really fully know that, but they're just really cool animals. They also likely had quills along their back. In the game, I believe, I'm not sure if the one we put in today has quills, but they can have a quill. Sorry, I didn't mean to say they can have quills. They might have had quills, essentially. A lot of ceratopsians have been theorized to have these quills along their back, especially closer towards the back of the legs, because I think quill knobs have been discovered in the skin impressions. But how up-to-date that theory is, I'm not 100% certain. Protoceratops, of course, is most famous for that one fossil called the fighting dinosaur fossil, I believe it's called, where it's preserved a Protoceratops and a Velociraptor locked in combat, when a sand dune or something like that probably buried them instantly, leaving them preserved in time, which is just still one of the coolest things in paleontology, the fact that that is a fossil find. It's incredible. So definitely one of the coolest fossils out there. But yeah, really fascinating animals. You can tell by how they look that they are absolutely the blueprint for future ceratopsids when they evolved. You can see all those classic features there except for the horns. Those will come later. And they're just really interesting. I like how small they are as well, because they would grow to become titanic creatures, the ceratopsids. You get things like Triceratops, which are like elephant-sized or bigger, big animals. And it all started with these little guys in the earlier part of the Cretaceous in Mongolia. Really quite cool animals. And very happy to have them here. The 3 skins that we get are all really quite cool looking in their own right. I can't remember which one I used here, but we'll pop into the live play after this and we can check them out. And we can find out what skin we ended up choosing. Here on screen, by the way, you'll see me just use one of the game's own prefabs for the hatchery, or the animal nursery actually. And I'm just deleting some of the rounded fence and stuff. I think in the game, I will occasionally make use of the prefabs and the modular buildings, and I kind of tweak them to suit the style of the park a bit more. Here I just used this one, and I removed the outer bits, changed the color a little bit, and I think it fits pretty well. Some people have said this, they want a smaller hatchery as well, and I think that would be a good addition. I do really love the big hatchery personally, but having the choice would definitely be nice to have a smaller one. And if you want to make it more like of a challenge, you can always put it in challenge mode and have that be like a reward to get a smaller one or something. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. Okay, cool. So we are almost at the end here. The last thing we have to do is, of course, really nicely decorate the habitat itself. I put in a little shelter back there, something similar to what you would find in a zoo for like antelopes and other bovine animals like that. Not to say antelopes are bovine animals, I mean just animals with hooves in general is what I'm trying to say, not bovines. But yeah, there you go. You've seen me plop them down just to see their size. And gosh, I love this foliage brush. It's such a nice foliage brush. And the fact that you can also place down this foliage by itself is so great. But the fact that you can select them and then choose the density and the size and plop them down, you can create these really beautiful lush forests so easily. And they look really good too. But yeah, that is pretty much it for the time-lapse portion of today's video. I do hope you've enjoyed this part. We'll just hop very quickly into the live play, where we're going to look at some of these dinosaurs up close and personal, get to know them a little bit, and then, yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I will see you all in just a second. Okay, so here we are in the game, and as you can see, we can't actually see very much because it is nighttime. Gotta say, the nighttime in this game looks really good. I like how dark it is. Also, we can just see some of the lights that we've put in up here, looking very, very nice. But let's go to daytime, actually, so we can actually see stuff. Midday sounds about right. And let's turn off the weather. That looks good. And you can see this is our park so far. It doesn't have a name yet. I will think of one, hopefully, before I upload this. And we'll see what works best. But yeah, this is our entrance building. I just wanted to make a cool, kind of modern-ish looking building. And I like kind of this stacked layer structure. I've seen this in some modern buildings, which I really, really like. I quite like the idea of like, it just looks like 2 rectangles stacked on top of each other. And then I went with some like little detailing bits. This building I actually did off screen because it was the first one I built while I was in the game. And I really like how it ended up looking. I like the roof detailing because we do have a lot of stuff we can use to detail the roof, and I quite like how that works out. Nice little planters here. I'm not finished all the planters, I don't think. Oh, maybe I have, huh. Love this hatchery. I think the modular hatchery that came with the base game, so good. This is just a beautiful piece of work, and I wasn't gonna like be able to come up with something quite this cool, I think. Or it would have taken me quite a while, so I just decided to use this and take out the entrance bit. You can see all the guests are walking about. So far, so good. None of them are clipping into anything weird at the moment. So let's hope it stays that way. I've seen a few odd ones popping here and there, but so far so good. But yeah, this is our little gift shop kind of area. There's a burger place in there as well, so if you want a burger with your, Prehistoric Kingdom t-shirt, you can do that. Bathrooms over here. And yeah, of course, this is our Protoceratops habitat. And they look... But first off, can I just say, the terrain in this game looks incredible. Like, really, really, really good. Like, look at those mountains in the distance. The sand, the pebbles, the foliage, the water, especially. I gotta say, like, I did some just some little terrain painting on the map itself because the map is very grassy, and the thing with the grass is you get this kind of like texture which looks really good, but it kind of gets in the way of building things. So I did some sand works just to put down some sand around here where we're building and around all the lakes. And I gotta say, that ends up looking really cool. I would recommend it. And look at this, like this shot here. That just looks like such a great water effect. The texture is beautiful. It looks like murky and shimmery at the same time. It's just perfect. And it really works with the scrubland environment, I think, with all the sand. And create some really great opportunities to build in a really unique way, I think. And of course, for Protoceratops habitat, I kept it quite sandy, quite gritty to match with the vibe of the animal. They of course lived in prehistoric Mongolia. And the idea is that it would have probably been somewhat deserty, but also with these large kind of wetland kind of areas, which would have had lakes and, you know, riverbeds and stuff like that. So yeah, I think this kind of represents hopefully what the environment would have been like a bit more. I love the scrubland foliage, it all looks really good, but the Protoceratops themselves, I think, really showcase how beautiful the animal work in this game is. The creature design is outstanding. And this isn't even like my favorite design in the game, let alone probably not even my favorite design for this species, and it's already so beautiful. Like, really absolutely stunning. The animal behaviors, of course, are still quite limited because it's early access, and I would like to see more of that. But even now, we can see them drinking, you can see them resting, and they occasionally do things like you will have seen this one do a little head bob earlier, which are really, really cool. But also, gosh, there we go, there it is, doing it again. Also, gosh, these are bizarre animals when you think about it, you know. I'm going to pause the game for a second. They did a brilliant thing, which I really like with dinosaur design, is when they give herbivores the goat eyes. Because that's a really cool thing that modern prey animals have to give them a wider field of vision. So I think it's really cool and, you know, works realistically for an animal like this too. But yeah, it is stunning. Let's look at that redder one over there. You are going to drown, my guy. Let's check this one out. Let's pause. Clambering over these rocks. The terrain, the way they walk up the terrain so far hasn't been too, like, bad or anything. I haven't seen any of them like really struggle to cross any terrain, any rocks or anything like that. So far it's been pretty reasonable. And yeah, just look at the scales and the scoots over here, the quills on the back of the tail, and of course that face with that beautiful big frill. And, you know, it's just such a bizarre animal, and yet they've rendered it in such a lifelike way. And I think depictions like this of animals that are so far removed from our time period are so valuable, because it's hard to visualize them sometimes as real animals. And that's why my favorite forms of paleo art are the ones where you just see them just being regular animals, eating, resting, walking around, socializing. You know, of course there is room for hunting and like really dynamic, dramatic behaviors, but the calm, peaceful, regular behaviors are stuff that I think are, you know, definitely could always do with more of that in paleo art. And seeing them like this depicted in such a beautiful way and yet such a realistic one is something I personally really, really love. So let's click play and have them go about. Let's see what type of skin this was, because all three of the skins are really quite nice. So you go over here and open the nursery menu. We can see the Protoceratops is here. This is the Gobi skin, because they were found in the Gobi Desert. There's the tumbleweed skin, which is also quite nice. I don't think there's much dimorphism, but each skin, of course, has some degree of variation, which I also really appreciate. I think this might be my favorite skin, the fractal one. I think it looks really quite cool, and I'm a big fan of green dinosaurs. I'm a big fan of green anything. It's my favorite color. By the way, if I sound vaguely strained, it's because I've got my pet snake Ike with me, and he is a wriggly little guy. He's just wrapped around my neck, but he keeps trying to get into my shirt, which is his way of just exploring. He loves exploring, and he just kind of gets into everything. He's a lovely little guy, but that's yeah, I'm trying to make sure he doesn't get into anywhere that might be a little bit dangerous for him. But yeah, that is the Protoceratops skins. And I am I'm just so glad to be playing the game. I'm so glad to be in Prehistoric Kingdom after so long, and to see it in this like kind of, you know, early access state is so nice, because of course it's not final by any means. We got a long way to go still, but it's out there now and it is great. I love it and I would highly recommend it. Again, early access, there will be bugs, there will be unpolished bits for sure, but I can't say that enough good things. It's really fantastic, and I would recommend it. So with that being said, I would say go for it if you want to. And of course, I will be putting up more videos as well for Prehistoric Kingdom in the coming days, weeks, and hopefully months. And you are more than welcome to leave a comment with a suggestion for what you want me to see, what you want to see me build for next. Any of the species are on the table. I'm not restricting myself to just dinosaurs. Prehistoric animals like the mammals will of course come as well. So just let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of today's build and today's video. Once again, apologies for being AWOL the past couple of weeks. And with that all being said, Thanks so much for watching, thanks for all the support as always, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!